All right, so we have a completed transcript. There's a few notes that I want to pass on as I did this process. The first thing is this entire transcript from beginning to end took me about 45 minutes. That includes distractions, somebody walking in and asking me a question and me getting up and getting a drink and stuff like that. And so it's not, the easiest. Assignment because it's a little mind numbing, but at the same time there's a few good things that come about out of it. You really do a very detailed analysis of what your opponent said. Okay, and the second thing is that you are already getting into a part of flowing or taking notes about what they're saying. Some other notes I want to point out is that there are words that most transcribers just do not know because they're kind of jargon from our argumentation theory, specifically the word inherency. I found that I just like sort of wrote out inherency, copied it, and then I went just through and I just pasted it every single time that it was brought up. Solvency, topicality, things like that. Specific acronyms are also uh, typical. So you go through and when they say it one time, you could find all of it. But otherwise, the YouTube transcript was about 90% accurate. Not counting punctuation. And so that's the last thing, is that punctuation is kind of a judgment call. So if you're wondering what the punctuation is supposed to be for what your opponent said, I would suggest making a decision and just moving on. Okay, and be gracious. All right, to whatever they said. For instance, uh, this affirmative speaker is very contraction happy. What that means is that uh, they use things like so, but, and several times at the beginning of their sentences. Okay, so just like I do, like when people are talking, it really sounds like a run-on sentence, but what you should do is be cutting those down so that they're not run-on sentences. Anyways, now that we have this thing, this transcript, what I did was the major sections, the big sections, there should only be like 3 or 4 of those sections. I put them on separate pages. You can see these little page separators. Like if I was going to do print layout, you could see it a little bit better. All right. So these are going to now be put into a flow sheet. And this is the flow sheet that we are going to use. It is freely available. You can find it, the Debate Sensei NFA-LD flowing template, and you can download a copy into your drive. The reason that this is useful is that it has different tabs at the bottom, and those tabs are going to correspond with these different pages. So it makes it really easy starting off, okay? Starting with the resolutional analysis, and like we have 2 advantages. Now, if your opponent has more than 2 advantages, you can just go to this drop down and you can duplicate this page, and all you have to do is change that to advantage 3, okay? But I'm going to just remove that. All right, so what we're going to do is that we're going to take these different sections, and on each one of these tabs, we're just going to put them into the first column and only the first column that says 1AC. What you're going to do is you're going to have 1 argument per cell, okay? All right, that's really easy to do, but the only time that seems like it's more difficult is when you have a question. The great part about the affirmative that you should be familiar with is that he was very clear. See, look, point A, B point. What is it? C point. Okay. So that becomes really easy. Take a look. I'm going to take this first part, and if you read this first part, it's like an introduction, and you might be thinking to yourself as like, well, that's not an argument. Still, I'm going to put it with the resolutional analysis, just in case, okay? Oh, here's the thing. Take a look. This is run on, right? It keeps on going outside of it. So we're gonna format the cell, and it's called text wrapping. See how it says overflow? We're gonna wrap it, okay? And I think I'll even do the font size smaller. Yeah, let's just do 8 so I can see it a little bit better, okay? All right. There we go. So that's one. Now, so the reason I'm doing that, and I'm just gonna put these all in and do it again. All right. So when you're reading through it, what happens if your opponent doesn't neatly number or letter their arguments? Or I think the overarching principle is bullet pointing their arguments. If they don't bullet point your arguments, that makes your job a little tougher. But at the same time, it makes the judge's job a little tougher understanding what they're saying. So one thing I want to point out is in your next speech, make sure that you are organized. But secondly, you have to organize the speech for your opponent. So when your opponent is less organized, it makes your job harder. And I hope that you see why it is now important to organize your speech verbally, not just in your outline, okay? So the way that you notice how it is organized is that you have to basically feel when they're moving on to the next point. Now here's actually an example, okay? They say the C point and they go is the plan text, right? Now as I'm reading through it, there's all these things sound like that they are just describing the plan text. But as soon as I get to this sentence, the criteria for this round, that's not part of a plan text. So you notice that my opponent didn't say the D point, but still, I'm going to treat that as its own argument. All right, and now I'm just going to do the whole thing. Format, wrap, text wrapping, and we'll do 8 point. All right, there you go. Look, there's one page right there, okay? Oh, and I just did it on the wrong one too. So what I'm doing now, notice I'm on advantage 2, so I'm gonna cut that, go to resolution analysis, paste it, there we go, okay? Now if you want to fill with the color that we have, you can see that's about it. It's a little off. No, it's perfect. All right, there we go. So now you have the 1AC, or the resolution analysis put that way. Let's go to advantage 1 and do the same thing, okay? Okay, so for advantage 1, here we go. On to the first, now on to the advantages. The first is this. Point under this according to serious problem. Oh, look, next inherency. So no letter, no number, but still what we call a signpost, okay? So there we go. Let's just handle this now. Wrap the text. 8-point font. Okay. Next in here is, you see, I'm not, I've already gone through one time, and now I'm breaking it down into smaller and smaller points, and then we're gonna get so point 3 is solvency. Look how short the inherency is. This is the stuff you start seeing when you start flowing things. Okay. Oh, it doesn't do it. All right. Now the impact. Um, so this is where I'm like, oh, this is a really long section. Why is that? It's like because he has several impacts, okay? So I'm going to make the choice to actually divide this up into a number of different cells. Look, the second impact. Yep. All right, here we go. So that's one impact. The third point, third impact. See that? All right. Yeah, I feel good about that. All right, let's select all, format. I want to wrap the text here. Do 8 point. And just to keep it the same, there we go. Advantage, look at that. We are almost done with this portion of it, right? All right, second advantage, energy stability, the harms, boom. All right, sorry about that. That's a little, one of my appliances in the background. Okay, so there's the harms, the inherency. Again, inherency is pretty short. Solvency. Oh, solvency is one line. There we go. This leads to the impacts. It has one. This time it doesn't say. Here we go. The second impact, stability. Okay, now when it gets to overall, that's not part of the second impact. It is just like an underview or a conclusion. So I'm going to just put it at the bottom here. Okay. Now, I understand that if you want to, you could put like a brand new tab and just call it underview or conclusion, and it would have only one cell on it. You know, that's up to you if you want to do that, but I'm just going to put it right here because I'm not foreseeing it being anything that is going to sort of, like, I don't think that the round is going to pivot on that, okay? Last but not least, going to wrap it. Boom, there you go. That's the next step of your assignment for flowing, okay? And so notice it's not a massive portion of the assignment, but what we're going to move on to next is going through each one of these cells and identifying the parts of the argument, okay? But this is really important for you just to identify where an argument begins and ends. And remember, when we're talking about arguments, we're talking about within each cell. Some people consider an advantage its own argument altogether, but for the purposes of this class, we are breaking it down into just this collection of propositions, of which one is claimed to be supported by the others. And now you could really start teasing out the details, which will be the subject of the next video.